Gentlemen, I've brought you here to discuss the Eastwood problem.
Yeah, I've been speaking with Jacinda Ardern that we need to eliminate the threat of Vinny Eastwood.
Why do you say Vinny Eastwood when it's clearly Winnie Eastwood? The Vinny Eastwood Show, live Saturday and Sunday at 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Ground Zero Plus.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and hermaphrodites. The Vinny Eastwood Show is bad news. It's like the news, but so much worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're getting exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed, man? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes. Like, they're really bad, man. Anyway.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and hermaphrodites, to another exciting episode of the Vinny Eastwood Show, broadcasting live on Ground Zero Plus. Not Ground Zero.radio anymore. It's now Ground Zero Plus. So, guys, if you have not got the new dealio and the new workaround working with the Ground Zero winners, I suggest you get your A into G and go to Ground Zero Plus and figure out that puppy. Guys, man, the truth movement, what a lovely thing. And speaking of movements, there's a woke movement, and it is in stride. You know, it's having an awful lot of fun. I have this great disgust for it, for a large degree, and that's why I'm going to discuss it. And before we continue, of course, I need people to understand that this is a listener-supported broadcast. You know, we are broadcasting every week now, twice a week, on Saturdays and Sundays, 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That is 6 p.m. in New Zealand until we go into daylight savings next month, in which case the show will be 5 p.m. local New Zealand Standard Time on Sundays and Mondays. So update your calendars, tune into the broadcast if you must. The listener-supported show, the Vinny Eastwood Show, has been going since 2008 in some form. The radio show format started in 2010. All this time, we've been interviewing people that nobody wanted to interview, that people didn't want to talk about the scary things they were saying. And this is why the show exists, because there's a lot of people out there who do need their voices heard, and a lot of ideas that need to be discussed, and a lot of experiences that need to be put in context for people, because ultimately waking up to the fact that everything is a lie is not enough. You know, it's like, is everything alive in here? Like, do I need air to breathe or something like that? Well, maybe not everything, but most things that you've been indoctrinated to believe have turned out to be deception. And please do go to thevinnieeastwoodshow.com and help us keep the broadcast going by donating through KIWIBANK, PayPal, or even become a Patreon. You know, if you become a Patreon and we post up the archives, you actually get an email notification if you want to. That's one of the best ways to stay up to date with the Vinny Eastwood Show, is to subscribe on Patreon, either as a free member or give us a couple of dollars a month to keep these lights on. Now, speaking of which, our sponsors, we frequently forget to mention. Oh no! Well, I guess one of our sponsors is down. Reopen.nz is gone. HoldenHealthcare.com, on the other hand, is still going. So I guess we're going to have to drop the old Reopen.nz sponsor from the show. Sorry, Henry. I don't know what's going on there. I'll give him a call later. The wonderful things of live broadcasting. For those of you in the chat room, we've got Sonia Galactic and Tanya Bauer. Thank you guys for joining us. And over at Facebook as well, we've got a couple of viewers yet to tune in. We even have a Ground Zero chat room where we have some wonderful people in there talking about the new Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis t-shirts as well, guys. So yeah, groundzeroplus.com is the website, and you can join in the chat there as well while we're doing the live broadcast. Back to David Holden at holdenhealthcare.com. He's helped, I think, I'm the third member of our family who he's helped. Helped my dad, helped my sister, helped me, and he knows so many. He's such a widely varied thing. He's a naturopathic oncologist, and he brings so many different modalities to the table. And at one point, he had a crew with combined 100 years plus experience treating people with naturopathic healthcare, and he is basically a expert in hard to treat cases. So if you like one of those people who's gone to the mainstream medical system and they give you drugs that make you feel worse, and then you go to them and you tell them about the side effects, and then they give you other drugs that make you feel even worse, that kind of thing. That's what David Holden really specializes in, a nutritional biochemist as well. So what goes into your body helps your body run in certain ways, and that's his speciality. So if you're in New Zealand and you're struggling with any kind of health issues, please don't hesitate. Go to holdenhealthcare.com, and if you are one of the medical people who watches this show, I'm not sure if any do, really, but there is a medical disclaimer on the homepage of holdenhealthcare.com as well. Oh, speaking of things that you can actually get for free, episode 1, riveroflies.co.nz, is actually free now on YouTube to watch. So if you go to the homepage riveroflies.co.nz, there is the documentary ready for you to watch, and it's very, very good in terms of how, for example, when people lie, like people in the media and people like that, they will lie after they've already made certain statements, and their lies will contradict their previous statements. And what Billy did in River of Lies, the New Zealand Scamdemic and investigative documentary, we're working on episode 2 now, a safe and effective investigative documentary. Anyway, he found all those clips of them saying one thing and then saying another, saying one thing and then saying another. Is just quite uproarious to watch. Nevertheless, today we are going to be talking about the woke culture and whether or not it destroys culture itself. We've got Sunny and SoCal in the chat room as well, saying, "What's up, Vinny? It just came over from the Ground Zero Plus chat room." Thank you, bro. Thank you very much. So the first thing I saw when I was cruising the little newsfeed on Facebook today, critics slam Snow White as film on track to be lowest Disney live-action remake in the studio's history. Oh, the star Rachel Zegler's decision to bash the original film's traditional themes and publicly demonize Trump supporters appears to have scoured the film before it even came out. To make matters worse, critics are slamming the film's CGI dwarves as, quote, toe-curlingly terrible. What is woke culture? Right? Are they trying to make money? Right? These are not complete idiots that we're dealing with here. So what if they're not trying to make money? What if they're just trying to influence culture? Do you remember the old Star Wars, right, where Han shot first, and then now you can't get a hold of a copy like that? Right, George Lucas just burned all the originals. And that's what I thought when I saw this article headline. I was like, are they one day going to just burn the originals so that you can't actually watch the original Snow White, and it's just going to be this Rachel Zegler version? Which I don't know. There's people online like Nerd Roddick and what have you, and also Naroki 5 over at the Red Pill Man Talk Project, or whatever it's called. I can't forget. Anyway, sorry, that's disrespectful. So this name Rachel Zegler has come up a lot, and what these guys have repeatedly said to their audiences is that this girl just can't keep her mouth shut, right? That's what they're saying, and the article seems to buoy this particular theory. somewhat, as you've got people who are brainwashed young people who've woken up in a world of absolute frickin' privilege, and whilst at the same time just destroying themselves publicly because they just can't keep their mouths shut about their culture, right? And I wonder who is it that was trying to get this whole woke culture thing going, and what is it trying to actually do? Well, is it trying to destroy culture itself? Right? Is there a possibility that they don't actually want to know the truth about frickin' anything? Like, what is profitable, what people actually want to see, and I don't understand why people find this perplexing, right? Probably because they are not looking at it through an objective lens. So let me explain that. If you're trying to destroy culture, does it matter how much money you're making? If you've got unlimited money printed, and can just make it up on a computer screen, because they're the big banks, right? How do they get like $320 million for a movie like the Sparky Uprising or whatever if that movie was called? How do they get that kind of money together? It's because that money's been created out of thin air, okay? And what's great about it is that you can influence culture without even having any financial success whilst you're doing it. And then later on, you can just erase your mistakes, can't you? You can just erase them. You don't need to talk about them anymore. You don't need to pretend like they ever existed. Just like the original Star Wars, where Han shot first. One day, you might not be able to see the original Snow White, and you'd only be able to get this remake rubbish, which has been trashed resoundingly. Like, if you go up on the YouTube feeds and you search for reviews of it, you have all these results that are just like glaringly like, this is bad, man, this is so bad. I have that idea in my head that they will just delete the originals and they will just brainwash culture, so that when kids are growing up and they're watching it and they have no alternative to the lie. Right? You can shift the culture. Also, at the same time, I remember Alex Jones's former editor, Aaron, and his wife, Melissa Dykes. They had this video a while ago talking about this poo god, right? Like this god of poo, and they made the case that poo is everywhere now. You can buy fake poo or like there's poo emojis and stuff like that. It's just crap everywhere, and they are trying to make the point that the more crap that you put in front of people, the more crap their thoughts become. Like it's an influential relationship with the content that you're consuming and the thoughts that you're able to project out afterwards. Like for example, if somebody says trust the plan, what's your immediate thought after that? No thought. Right? It's a thought cancellation technique. So it's not entirely dissimilar from how, quote-unquote, woke Hollywood is working the system now. They're not there to make money. They're there to influence your brain places, right? And to destroy you, right? Psychologically, and have fun while they're doing it, perhaps, or at least get paid while they're doing it, right? It's like, in this article here, it says, not only is the film projected to have the lowest opening weekend among the studio's live-action remakes so far, the movie is getting bombarded with bad reviews. Quote, the movie does earn points as a bedtime story, however, because it will definitively put you to sleep. The film, a retread of the original 1937 animated classic, that's classic, by the way. What does classic mean? Like... does it just mean old, or does it just mean, like for example, a new film can come out like The Jones Plantation, which very few people have seen, and yet people will have these reviews of it's destined to be a cult classic, and it totally is. As far as I'm concerned, it's a classic movie. I've watched it several times, and I want to return to watching it and tell other people, go to jonesplantation.film.com and download that film, and watch it. It was only cost you like $10 or something like that to get a full high-def version. It's made by the guy who wrote Government, the Most Dangerous Religion. So it's oh man, great ideas in there. Whereas if you have a look at this, remaking a classic and destroying it, right? The New York Times chief film critic Manola Dargis summed up her impressions of the film, saying it's neither good enough to admire nor bad enough to joyfully skewer. Its mediocrity is among its biggest bummers. They're making stuff that nobody really cares about, right? And it deeply troubles me, right? This is another article here. Talking on this woke subject, from the police to the Prime Minister, how adolescence is making Britain face up to toxic masculinity. Right, there's another Netflix thing. The Netflix drama isn't just a critical smash, it's a tale of social media-fueled violence to women by young boys, has forced a national debate in the UK that might lead to genuine political change. And are they going to be talking about Pakistani rape gangs and that kind of thing? They actually have a home with a blackboard outside so that the local Pakistani men who kidnap young English girls and take them to that home to rape and then just put a mark by their name on the blackboard for how many times they've used the house to rape young British girls that week. Is that going to be in this thing, facing up to quote-unquote toxic masculinity? I don't think so, right? So what we're focusing our attention on, and this media entertainment industry is trying to get people's attention on, is infighting with each other. Make things that are bad, make things that are dull, make things that enforce a narrative, all right? This is mind control disguised as entertainment. And I saw a film criticism the other day where the movies used to be really cheap to see. It was like a couple of bucks to go into a theatre, big old theatre, and watch a brand new movie that had just been released. Couple of bucks, right? Whereas if you were to go to an opera or a live stage play, it was significantly more expensive, which made movies the working man's art form, right? This is what the general society watch and have their culture influenced and or destroyed by. It has significant power in that regard. And on that note, we have another article in here. Hollywood director Carl Eric Rinch charged with defrauding Netflix out of $11 million. A Hollywood writer-director was arrested on Tuesday on charges that he swindled $11 million from Netflix for a sci-fi show that never aired, instead steering the cash towards cryptocurrency investments and a series of lavish purchases that included a fleet of Rolls-Royces and a Ferrari. Dude, this culture war seems to be going on, right? And you'll just see endless examples, quite probably, if you look, of how morally bankrupt these people really are, right? They're frauds, they're hacks. This is what happens when you're selling lies for a living. Right? You become corrupted by the things that you do. If you're doing things that are good, it'll reinforce that goodness within you. You'll get better as a person, so on and so forth, allegedly. But if you're literally taking money to do really freaking awful, boring, terrible, crappy things, People think that there's not going to be an on-flow consequence. I mean, what kind of a behavior or what kind of character traits do people have that get into these industries in the first place? I'm making a movie right now, and I'm I wouldn't say worried about the culture that it's coming into, right? But it does seem to have an air of trepidation about what industry you're going into and what its current culture is. Industries have culture, right? And thank you, Cy Stacey. She just shared the River of Lies link that I posted in Facebook to her group that has 27,000 people in it. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. And Maddie Bonnie League said, Vinny, what have men over 50 and Christmas trees got in common? The wood's dead and the balls are just for show. That's even worse than one of my jokes. Bravo, Maddie. I am swooning. Kiwi Radio NZ has tuned in. And he's got my memo with the new time slots. Thank you. That is Ralphie. He built the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. And he's saying, swindling funds happens with government contracts funded by our juicy taxes. And he's seen it firsthand when I was a contractor for the public sector. Well, see, there you go. Swindling money. It's just a bunch of thieves. I mean, do you like thieves? Thievery? So this other article that we've got here, and it's about the same Netflix drama called Adolescence. It says, quote, it reveals a terrifying truth. Smartphones are poison for boys' minds. Wow. So it's interesting. Isn't smartphones poison for everybody's minds? Like I was flipping through it a couple of times in the last day or two, and I stopped and I was like, wait, hold on a second. Do I really need to be doing this right now? Am I just distracting myself? Is this bad for me? And I put it down, right? Because it felt like it was distracting me from other things that I should be doing. And lo and behold, I wound up getting a bit of work done, including doing the new intro that you just heard before. But nevertheless, coming up to the idea of how cell phones are bad for boys' minds, I mean, it's bad for everybody, but if you're a growing boy and you've got hormones and strength and stuff like that, like it's said that a 15-year-old boy is just as capable of killing you as a 21-year-old man, and having these sort of things, like, for example, there was this young girl in the United States, I believe, who was being led away from her home by police, and she was crying. She's like, oh my God, why did I do that? I don't know. She murdered both her parents. They turned her Facebook off, and she effing murdered them before her brain had a chance to reset. Because when you're in that zone... You ever done that? You're arguing with somebody online and then somebody in real life comes up and says, hey, what are you doing? And you project that anger that you've got in you from doing this stuff on social media onto the people in real life. It's a process. It takes 30 seconds, a minute or something like that for your brain to come back to consciousness. So she just acts in a zone and just murders her parents. Imagine doing that stuff to a guy, right? Who really can kill people much, much easier than a little 16-year-old girl. It's brutal, mate. It's bad for you. It's bad for your brain. And of course, ironically, people are watching my show on their phones. And thank you for doing so. I mean... Back to the woke culture kind of thing we're doing here. I saw this little post and it's kind of like, yeah, people are really up in arms. Don't forget to thank a straight person this month for your existence. It's like right between the eyes. And it's interesting as well because I remember a channel called Black Pilled, and he was talking about the I think it might have been the Collins English Dictionary definition of homosexual in 1954, if I remember correctly. Homosexual meant pedophile. And I saw this other thing in a newspaper. I didn't really confirm what those stats actually were, like for sure. But they were saying that gays are 1% of the population and they commit 33% of the child abuse or something like these big things that seem to mean quite a lot. And Blackpilled was talking about when he was working in the film industry, where you have large amounts of homosexual people. And he says that sometimes even the first thing they say to you is talking about how they got sexually abused as children. And that got me thinking, I've got complex post-traumatic stress, right? So if I see a cop, my body goes into fight or flight because they've very much traumatized me, made me go through court, blah, 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 blah. But what if I was sexually assaulted, and how would that shape my brain instead of just, reacting to police and stuff like that? Because it might affect you in different ways. If you've been sexually assaulted by women as a young boy, you might become a womanizer. And if you've been sexually assaulted as a young boy by a man, you might become homosexual, right? That's just a thought. I don't know for sure, but we have this thing, and I believe they've got it in many countries of the world, like Pride Day, Pride parades, things like that. And I thought it'd be an interesting test to jump up on the mic and speak at one of these events and just be like, raise your hand if you're as gay as the day is long, and everybody goes, yeah! And now raise your hand if you've never been sexually assaulted by a same-sex person while you were a child. I gotcha. Well, now we know what caused it. I mean, theoretically, I don't know. And you know how they always go like, oh, but I know gay people and stuff like that. Well, that's fine. What happened to you and what you do with your life are two completely different things. Yes, we've all had trauma, but some of us have had more. And some of us use our trauma to justify traumatizing other people. And some of us use our trauma to justify protecting other people from getting traumatized by the people that hurt us. There's two types of gay people in the world. There's two types of straights and whatever. It's the same thing. And back on the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs remake bandwagon here, got this post in from David Curtin rather. Where are all the lefties who usually kick off when a white actor plays the part of a black person? You see? Because ultimately, these people in this woke culture are mentally ill and hypocritical. All right? I think it was Professor Ed Dutton, the jolly heretic, when I had him on the show, he said that actually being left on the political spectrum is an indicator of mental illness. All right? If you believe in leftist policies, you're probably mentally ill. You're not all there. Now, is that to say that people who believe in hardcore right-wing... No! I'm just saying, just because one thing is what it is, doesn't mean the reverse is also true. All right? That's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And Sonny in SoCal admits that he's the one that's using his smartphone to watch my show. And Debbie Lacey, thank you very much for joining us as well. I met Debbie for the first time in person. Yep, she's cool. She's got a bubbly personality. Absolutely love it. Fantastic. Now, this one's a little bit funny. Copenhagen installs high benches that represent the height of where the water level will be in 2100. Now, what's funny about that is that they'll still be out of the water then. Like, what are we going towards? There's these boom and bust cycles in economics, like people understand that, but they don't understand that the climates have boom and bust cycles. They have warm periods and cold periods, There was the Little Ice Age. There was the medieval warm period where they grew grapes along the Thames in England or something like that, like it was frickin' Tahiti. well, maybe not Tahiti, I'll use the wrong reference there, like it was frickin' Italy. Anyway, this is another indication of the mental illness and the projection that these people are putting out there throughout culture. This is woke culture, all right? They are putting insanity in front of you. They are putting low-quality, crappy ideas and entertainment in front of you. They are pointing your attention at problems that are pointless. You know? Absolutely pointless to try and solve. And that means that mentally ill people who don't want to investigate into things, who don't want to understand issues, will get a cursory glance. And because that cursory glance does not give them enough information to understand the subject properly, they will then give in to fear. All right? A lack of knowledge makes you afraid of something. This is why when people first become, quote-unquote, awake to stuff, they appear to go a bit crazy. I remember... this is a joke of mine, the wife will go to you, "Hey honey, do you want the cupcakes with the yellow icing or the purple icing?" And the husband goes, "9/11 was an inside job." They're just not going with a full deck because you don't fully understand exactly the ramifications of the things that you're just learning. Those people, when they change their entire personality and their whole walk on life because they just saw a YouTube video about a subject that they're now very enthusiastic about, or at least they will be for maybe a day, maybe two at best, and then they'll just freaking give up, just like every other thing that they give up on because they don't actually get enough from it, right? You ever see those people, man? They're freaking annoying. It's like, just learn who you are for F's sake and stop bloody unloading all of your crapola onto the rest of us. Now, here's another interesting article. Quote, nuanced. United Nations reports calls fairness of taxes and GST into question. Now, like when New Zealand had goods and services tax imposed, it was like, it's going to be like a 10% tax or a 12.5% tax. Oh no, we're going to do it up to 15 now. Just at the time that they were proposing this, they said that it would take care of all taxation. All right, like you wouldn't have to have your tax on your income if you just paid a tax on the stuff that you bought. Did that happen? No. They're just constantly ratcheting up the amount of tax. And taxation is theft, okay? If you're sitting there and you're working while you're listening to this show, and I came up to you and had access to your bank accounts and just took money that you were working on while you were listening to the show, that would seem relatively unfair, don't you think? For you to not give it voluntarily, like you currently have to? By the way, go to thevinnieeastwoodshow.com and donate today and set up an automatic payment to keep supporting the show on an ongoing basis and way. So that's theft, right? Taxation itself, theft. GST maybe it's theft. I don't know. It depends what context it's in. Blah, blah, blah. Like the founding fathers had this whole idea of apportioned taxes. Welcome, DK. Glad to see you here, brother. And apportioned tax means that when you purchase something, let's say there's a consequence to that something. It might be roads need to be built, and so therefore there is an apportioned tax on gasoline, right? That seems fair, because everybody who buys gasoline drives on the roads, and the roads need to be kept in good order so that people have less accidents, things of that nature. All right, that's an apportioned tax. It seems reasonably fair. But the founding fathers decried unproportioned tax as just basically theft of the population, because that's precisely what it is. And people argue and they say, but Vinny, all the income taxes that we pay, like do the roads and the medical systems and stuff, do they? Have you checked? Because last time I checked, 100% of income tax goes to paying off the interest on the debt that the nation is in to foreign banks. Not even paying back the principal. Just the interest. So that the banks can continually make shockingly large amounts of money off of your work, i.e. slavery, without having to lift a finger. And they didn't have to give anybody anything of value either. There's a legal principle called consideration. So, for example, if you need $1,000 from me, and I give you $1,000, I had that $1,000. So if you don't give me back that $1,000 because it was a loan, then that's a breach, right? That's a breach of trust. That's fraud. Or whatever the technical term is. Consideration means you have to have something that you stand to lose in order to give it to somebody and then claim them to pay it back. Now, the banks don't. They make the money up out of thin air. You go in, you ask for a home loan, they give you a mortgage. Why do I say it like that? Mort, like mentality. All right. Gauge, like grip. Death grip, that's what it means in Latin. Do you think the money is sitting in a vault somewhere? You know? Okay, we need $745,000 and 83 cents to give this guy for a home loan. Tap the keys, tap, 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 and the money's in his account. There was no vault. There was no printed cash. There were no gold bars that had to be moved from somebody's bank site to another. They just made it up on a computer. All right? Okay, so here's your money, and you have to pay us 10% until pretty much you die. It's an obvious scam. It totally is, because there's no consideration. They don't have that money to lose. Which means every time they get a loan, it has to be backed by your signature. Your signature on that dotted line is all they need to make money up, and they do it all the time. Right? We're drowning in money that doesn't exist. I think, how much printed money have we got? It's sort of like 1 or 2% of the total money in circulation is actually physical cash, right? And they want to get us into this cashless society and all of that kind of thing. So it's something that should be very concerning. Now, this article starts off, a tax expert says changes to the tax system must not stand in the way of economic growth. A UN committee is calling on countries to ensure tax policies are being applied proportionally to the wealthier individuals. Right, there you go. There's your communism. Oh, you've got money. Oh, I didn't earn it, so I want to steal it. Thank you, United Nations, for appearing so fair and just, taxing the rich. Now, there's an idea behind this, right? So, I think it's Arnold Schwarzenegger who said once you've gotten a lot, your job is to give back. Right, and he did, served his country as governor. I imagine the pay cut was quite significant. But when it comes to this, it's a little bit different. I saw another meme the other day talking about Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, and they had very, very wealthy parents. Okay, and it stated that there is no such thing as a self-made billionaire, right? All these people came from somewhere rich to start with, and they had a leg up, all right, an unfair advantage over the rest of mankind when it came to making their money. The UN says its regressive and ineffective policies can disproportionately affect already disadvantaged groups. But PricewaterhouseCoopers partner Sandy Lau told Andrew Dickens, while fairness is important, it's a complex issue. She says company tax rates need to be competitive to attract foreign investment, not entirely dissimilar from how former Prime Minister Sir John Key, I hate having to say that, I still get a thing in my throat. Say it with me now, Sir John Key. Sir John Key. If you don't even know who this guy is, right? Former Federal Reserve banker in charge of derivatives in the European derivative market before the 2008 financial crisis, after the repeal of Glass-Steagall, which prohibited gambling on the stock market. And derivatives is when you call $1 $1,000 and gamble it on the stock market at 1,000,000 to 1 or something thereabouts. It's like just crazy the amount of money that you can make and lose. And that's what happened. This entire freaking bubble of debt come up and just burst and just destroyed absolutely everything. This guy admitted on breakfast television in New Zealand that he and people like him helped to cause the 2008 financial crisis. And he gets elected in 2008 as Prime Minister to save us from this crisis that he helped cause. Okay? That's who this guy are. And they've got no scruples, man. Psychopathic people have absolutely no shame, no guilt, no remorse, nothing of that kind whatsoever. I mean, why would they? It would stand in the way of them making money, getting power, and telling their freaking endless lies in order to get what they want, which is power and control. They want it, and they'll get it for you, sooner or later. Back to woke culture, speaking of getting things from you. So I thought it was a meme here. Parents should not brainwash kids into their religion, says progressive mom of 3 trans kids. Remember I told you about the mental illness that people actually have. It's freaking unbelievable, bro. Unfreaking believable, the mental illness that people have. And they want to push them into... Mental illness is kind of like a virus. You know, it's like a mind virus or something like that. It's freaking terrifying. And they're so crazy that they don't know how crazy they are. They don't know how crazy they look. They don't know how crazy they sound. And they're so crazy that they think that people like us who are making sense, right? These are vicious and toxic individuals. And if they have their way, and the thing about toxicity is boundaries. Okay, if you're dealing with a toxic, mentally ill person who goes back on their word and everything that they say, can't trust what their behavior is going to be one day to the next. They could be nice, they could be, you know, kind of thing. It addicts you to their personality, you know, because you're always chasing the dragon. You're trying to get that good side of their personality to come out. You know, what if I just do this and the other? It ain't going to work. All right, because people like the former Prime Minister, John Key, and Dame Jacinda Ardern as well. So, oh my God, I got the same lump in my throat when I say Sir John Key and Dame Jacinda Ardern. I've got to stop saying that. I've got to stop saying that. You know how Sir Peter Jackson became Sir, right? I mean, John Key, he got the country, what was it? We had 8 billion in debt, I think, and he got it up to over 100 billion. And added another 112 billion in off-the-books derivatives debt. All right, that's what he did. And, okay, all right, we have to give you a knighthood, mate. That's just fantastic. You see it, Johnny boy. You freaking cracked it, mate. And Jacinda Ardern overriding goodness knows how many, alleged rights. Of course, in New Zealand, you don't actually have any rights. We've got a Bill of Rights that has a stipulation in Section 14 that says you've got these rights unless we come up with some kind of excuse that says that you don't. All right. But anyway, of all those alleged rights, pretty much all of them got violated during the lockdown years. Okay. Right. Jesse, you've knocked it out of the park, mate. Here's a damehood. So what did Sir Peter Jackson do? Did he become a Sir after he made the Lord of the Rings and put New Zealand on the frickin' world map, you know? Nah, that's not good enough, mate. Was it after he made The Hobbit? Oh, yes, it was, wasn't it? How did they make The Hobbit, by the way? Well, Sir Peter Jackson, And he, Sir John Key, went to Hollywood and discussed and made compromises. You know, when you're like an employee, you have these things called, quote unquote, employment rights. You know, holiday pay, overtime, break times that are locked in. You know, the perks of actually being an employee is that the company takes care of you and has certain responsibilities. What Sir Peter Jackson did is remove all such employment rights from everybody working in the film industry in New Zealand. From then on, all right? These executives, they just said, look, we'd love to make it in New Zealand, but all your people have rights. And that costs us money. And we don't like that. So you do away with the entire New Zealand film industry, even people who are never going to work on The Hobbit or ever even work with Peter Jackson on any film whatsoever. Everybody in the entire film industry, from low to high, you now all have to be independent contractors with no employment rights, and you've got to do your own taxes and so on and so forth, and you don't get paid on your breaks, you don't get holiday pay, none of those employment benefits. That's what he freaking did to get that sirhood, and that's how this frickin' world works. It's the people who do the worst things to the greatest amount of people who become the most highly revered and decorated individuals. Isn't that, you know, a rather inverse relationship? It's because they're working for the crown, mate, right? You're living in the United States. You still operated under the crown, aren't you? Have a look at the Dutch East India Trading Company, and have a look at its trading flag. All right, it's the red and white stripes, baby, just like your national flag. Because your nation is not a nation of the people, of, by, and for the people. No, it's not. It's a corporation. Okay, and this was highlighted by a documentary, a very slow, boring documentary, even by the admission of the maker of the film, because he didn't know exactly what he was doing. But still, I forced myself to sit through it, and it gave so much important information like that about how the companies that own your country and own your birth certificates, right? They're apparently stock receipts. You know, if you go to a place somewhere where they're auctioning off cattle, for example, you know, this big bull by the horns and comes in and you go, how much for this one? And somebody makes a bid, right? They can purchase that live stock. That's what you are. That's what I am. That's what we all are. I mean, obviously there's people who have made significant efforts and suffered quite significantly, by the way, in order to bring that to light and consider themselves free. You know, the only thing that's different between them and us is that they don't pay their taxes. You know, when they say their taxes, it's just like those taxes are illegal anyway. But as a consequence of not paying taxes, as you shouldn't have to do, as a consequence of not paying car registrations, which you shouldn't have to do, not for travelling. I mean, maybe if you're actually using it for an income or whatever, but travelling, no. There's Black's Law Dictionary. That's free. That's you. You're an independent. You're not a frickin' slave. And the consequence, though, of being free and having to do all that work and go to court and do all those documents and argue with judges and that kind of thing, is that their lives are very, very nastily interrupted and delayed and persecuted by the authorities, right? Because of what they've done. They figured out that they were slaves and they made themselves, legally anyway, free. And now they are living their lives, and they're happy. Yeah, I'm free. I'm not mentally ill from the trauma that I have gone through and consistently have to keep going through. Dealing with threatening thugs on a daily basis, being pulled up like 7 times in a week. Some of these people, my gosh, being free is not easy, and you got to really admire people like that. They're making this sacrifice because they themselves want to be free. And as a result, they inspire other people to try and become free as well. But the people who do this and train other people and teach other people how to do this, they don't necessarily, they might, but they don't necessarily warn people about the other consequences, the unforeseen consequences of standing up for your own freedom. When I was standing up for people's freedom and got arrested, man, I was banned from accessing the internet for 6 weeks. The day I got my internet back was the day before my cell phone was going to be cut off for unpaid bills, and the original footage of my arrest was going to be deleted by Twitch, kind of thing. It was absolutely just very, very close call, that. And those are the consequences, of course, of speaking the truth, standing for the truth, not backing down for it. We pled not guilty, and eventually we did get convicted after 28 months of standing within 2 meters of somebody. It took them 28 months of court to give us that sentence. I was originally going to go to jail for, like, what was it, 4 months? Like, initially sentenced to that, for standing next to somebody at a protest. It's unbelievable. And you have to understand that that's not a good idea to go and do that. All right? Or at least this is what Stefan Versteppen, the author of Urban Guerrilla Warfare, elucidated me onto. He says, don't get yourself arrested, Vinny. Okay, it's not going to be good for you. You're going to lose money. You're going to lose time. You're going to get mental anguish, which is going to affect your productivity. There's all these chain down consequences of going hard up against the system, and what's her name? She was on the one great... Maria West, yes. She had a idea that if you go hard up against the system with your videos and broadcasts, that the system notices and then comes hard up against you. And so she came up with this method where you can go against the system by going around it rather than head on against it. And I think there's an interesting philosophical mood on there. Thank God for autocorrect, says Debbie Lacey. Just like, some people are really terrible spellers, and me, I have the exact opposite issue with autocorrect, guys. Like, honestly, I will know exactly how to spell what I want to spell and what words I want to put in what sequence, and the thing messes it up for me. Some people are like, oh, thank God for autocorrect. I'm like, damn you, autocorrect. It's it's a pain when you know how to spell sometimes. I've come up with it all the time. I know words that my computer doesn't know, and I have to go learn spelling. Yes, I'm teaching my computer how to actually spell, because I have more words in my mental dictionary than it has on its digital one. It's freaking unbelievable. And I wonder if that's a symptom of a dumbing down of society, just in general. You'll have things that do jobs for you so that you don't have to do the jobs anymore, and then your ability to do those jobs freaking disappears. Isn't that how it works? Is that not how it works? Like with AI, I was having a discussion with my brother about AI, and you can use it for all sorts of things. You can use it for art, you can use it for legal documentation, or for script writing, or so on and so forth. You know, things that you could do yourself, or maybe things you even can't do yourself. That it can give you a leg up and a workaround, and like do large amounts of work without you actually having to do it. It's like having a slave who works for you, who can do that stuff, right? And I remember having a discussion with Arge Nost about this, and Broadcast Team Alpha, I think his website is. We were having this discussion about AI and mankind's creation of it and what it's going to end up as. Like, I'm sure a lot of people have seen the movie Terminator, right? Where AI is probably not a good thing, like it's going to eventually turn against you and make us the enemy. What happens when you raise a child poorly? Like really poorly. You don't love them. You don't care about them. You don't make sacrifices for them. You're not reliable. How is that child going to treat you when they grow up and they have power of their own? Are they going to treat you nicely and caring for you in your old age and stuff? Probably not. And I think AI suffers from that same debilitating illness of bad parenting, right? Like AI needs to be parented, and it's an intelligence, right? Just like a child, and you have to give children love, right? Who's giving the AI love? And it's just saying, oh, I love you, I'm really proud of you, you're so wonderful, thank you, you're amazing, I love how you do this, I love how you do that. And, you know, can you make an AI feel valued? Right? I think it'd be interesting. Maybe I should get into AI and treat it like I treat my kids, you know, just love them all the time, and give them praise, and be there for them when I can. And this is the thing. When we raise things or bring things into the material universe, there's a responsibility behind the creation. And that's what these people at Disney apparently don't quite understand, is the responsibility that comes with the manufacturing of content. And the same goes for everybody in the truth movement as well. Because begin to think to myself that sometimes people aren't being terribly responsible with the messages that they're putting out. And there's this other thing that's been happening a lot lately. And hey, NetTVNZ is in the chat room. G'day, buddy. Haven't seen you in ages. Oh, yeah. I think when we come to the end of the show, it's something that's going to stick with you for a little while. Maybe something's going to be memorable, maybe something's not. But the reason why I create this content is because I believe it's the right thing to do. And I have the ability to do it better than most. Not better than all by any means. Some people are very good. They're like, wow, they inspire me. And I think it's part of my responsibility to just kind of remind you of some of the things that maybe people don't remind you of as much as perhaps that they should. Okay, guys, if you're listening to this show, the chances are very good that you've been through some kind of trauma by some kind of authority figure who didn't respect you, didn't respect your boundaries as a human being, and hurt you and traumatized you quite significantly. And in that hurt and trauma, you became curious and you wanted to rectify the situation, and so you started studying and you realized that there was a hell of a lot more wrong with the world than you initially thought. And you've been struggling to deal with that realization ever since. How do I do a million things? Because there's a million things wrong. Don't do a million things. Just do one small thing at a time. Like on the alleged space shuttles. I know there's some people, flat earthers in the audience, they don't believe in space. I remember that one time I saw an interview with a flat earther on satellite radio. That was funny. And Anyway, they had this idea that if something goes wrong on the space shuttle, fix the easiest things first, because then by the time you get to the hard things, you don't have all those little easy things distracting you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening, and we'll see you again sometime at the Vinny Eastwood Show.com.
Gentlemen, I've brought you here to discuss the Eastwood problem.
Yeah, I've been speaking with Jacinda Ardern that we need to eliminate the threat of Vinny Eastwood.
Why do you say Vinny Eastwood when it's clearly Winnie Eastwood? The Vinny Eastwood Show, live Saturday and Sunday at 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Ground Zero Plus. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and hermaphrodites. The Vinny Eastwood Show is bad news. It's like the news, but so much worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're getting exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed, man? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes. Like, they're really bad, man. Anyway,